please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Honorable Councilwoman Carrie Budzinski.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Budzinski. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to start off jumping right to special recognition and tributes. Believe it or not, we do not have any. And so this sets, welcome to the 2008 regular meeting of the Livonia City Council. This is a voting meeting. Minutes of this meeting will be approved at the next regular meeting to be scheduled to be held on Monday, January 27th, 2025. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Budzinski.
Here.
Councilmember Shield.
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Councilmember Choi.
Here.
Councilmember Donovic.
Here.
Vice President Tashnik.
Here.
President McCullough.
Here. And we have all members present. And I know it's kind of out of order, and everybody will, but I want to welcome Councilwoman Linda Shield back to the dais. And we'll jump into that, but it's nice to have 7 seats. And welcome back.
Thank you.
I will now entertain a motion for the minutes from the regular meeting that was held on December 18th and the special meeting that was held on January 6, 2025. Council?
So moved. Support.
I've got motion maker, vice president, support on either pick Laura or I'm going to let you have the choice.
Scott.
Oh, Scott.
Scott, for sure.
Oh, yeah, Scott's on it. All right. Any comments from the audience on the minutes? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Councilmember Budzinski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shield.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Choi.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Vice President Tashnik.
Red Bull, guys.
I was just seeing if
Present.
Donovic was jumping in. Aye.
President McCullough.
Aye. Lori, we're just trying to mess with you today. and the minutes are approved. I'm going to jump right into audience communication. The council has set aside 30 minutes for items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to make your way to the podium, you have 3 minutes. Name and address for the record. Good evening. Good to see you.
Good evening, everybody.
Nice shirt.
I have a handout for all the members of the council.
You want to give it to Mr. Zielinski? And we'll get him.
I'm the only guy that takes his glasses off to read.
Hey, no, I'm right with you.
Mr. Will Lindley, an attorney and a community planner from Deer Creek Subdivision, wanted me to share some very important comments this evening. He is out of town, so he asked that I step in. I quote, full legal consideration must be given to the following 2 facts, and this is on the sheet's proposal. The zoning ordinance is a law of the city of Livonia, and the Livonia Vision 21 serves as the official master plan for the city of Livonia. Further, as found on page 5, the recommendations presented in the Vision 21 text and shown graphically in the maps provide a legal basis for zoning and other land use controls utilized by the city. That said, Mr. Lindley thus goes on. The job of the planning director is to review applications for rezoning to determine compliance with both the zoning ordinance and the Vision 21 land use plan. Because the sheet's application is not in compliance with the current zoning, it requires an expansion from C1 to C2 with a variance. The director must then determine whether the application conforms to the Vision 21 land use plan. It doesn't, since no commercial land use is ultimately proposed for the 8 Mile and Newburgh site. In fact, it is designated Parks and Recreation, as you'll see on this page 2 of the thing that I've sent you, or I've given you, that in fact designated for Parks and Recreation as the eventual future land use. Because the zoning ordinance and Vision 21 land use plans are the law of the city of Livonia, the Director of Planning must recommend to the City Planning Commission that the application be denied as it does not comply with Livonia law. The Director of Planning does not have authority to ignore either the ordinance or land use plan. Doing so is ultra virus, or in layman's terms, without authority. The Planning Commission should really have been required to review the application again and make a revised recommendation to the City Council. In this instance, the Planning Commission acted again in an ultra-virus manner by sending its approval to the City Council. The Planning Commission does not have authority to unilaterally amend the laws of the city either. It must comply with them. Here again, the Commission's proper response should have been to deny the application that was not in compliance with Livonia law. Because both the Planning Director and Planning Commission ignored Vision 21 land use plan and decided to expand zoning to a use not authorized by Livonia law, the City Council must now enforce Livonia law and deny the Sheets application with prejudice. To do otherwise would require the City Council to amend or revise either or both the zoning ordinance and/or Vision 21 land use plan before it could take action on application which is not authorized under current law, end quote. Once again, this is respectively submitted by Mr. Will Lindley, who lives at 20218 Edgewood in the Deer Creek subdivision.
You did good. You hit the 3-minute mark perfectly.
Thank you.
So well done.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You recited at home.
Yes. Good evening.
Laura Jonica, 29635 Munger in Livonia. I've just got 3 small things to bring today. They're all reminders, nothing new here. Just asking the city again to check on the $20,000 that were allotted for Alfred Noble. The money would be best spent sooner than later, to not sit on that. I would like to know the purpose of the delay from the mayor's office. And I know that the DPW can work really hard when it's asked to, and very quickly. The second thing I want to talk about is a reminder about the city council meetings, that they are essential for people to participate in, and they should be available for all citizens. As we know, there are quite a few barriers to coming into this building. There's no, if you're hearing impaired, you can't participate. If you're sight impaired, you also can't participate. We've seen people that were blind that came to this meeting, and they had to get an Uber, pay for an Uber to come, and then had to manipulate the walkways and things like that. So it's very, very dangerous for people. So I think everybody should have a voice at the table, the opportunity to have that voice. Also, the restrooms, as you know, are a problem. These are just reminders, nothing new here. But if somebody comes in a wheelchair, they may have to go to the bathroom. It's kind of a critical thing. So the last thing is just a reminder about the MLK event on Monday at Madonna College, and I hope we can have a big turnout for that. It's important for the city. It's important for the leaders who are working towards a more equitable city, and I think to honor MLK shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be for everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else for audience communication? Seeing none, I'm going to jump right into City Council communications. Let me just start with some paperwork items. I just want to let everybody know that we have new data on item number 12, the lot split. And then we do have a capital outlay committee meeting January 22nd in the council chambers. Council?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Toy?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank DPW for their attention to snow and ice and all those elements that tend to be out there in January in Michigan. And they've really worked, hard and tirelessly. I don't think we realize a lot of times, what they do. So I just wanted to say kudos to them. And I see Mr. Moore's out there. I always thought he just was in charge of trees, but I guess he's in charge of more than that. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair and others.
Yeah, thank you. Vice President, I'll go to Councilwoman Budzinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just also want to echo Mr. McCullough's sentiments to Mrs. Shield. Welcome aboard. We're thrilled to have you. Your dedication and commitment to the city, it makes you a valuable addition. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Budzinski.
Hi, thank you. All right, I have a few things. One, there are some predicted really cold temperatures, especially next week, and so I just wanted to remind everyone that Livonia does provide warming centers when there is critically cold weather. Those will be shared on the city website and social media, or if you're in need, you could always call. But I just wanted to make sure that people are aware that those resources are available, but it's announced as needed, so unfortunately, I can't say whether, we can't predict the weather as much as weathermen try. Additionally, I wanted to let everyone know that the Livonia Police Citizens Academy has its applications open for the 2025 session, which runs on Tuesdays from March 4th to May 13th. The application deadline is January 22nd. At the end of the year, I did a ride-along with the Livonia Police with Officer Bailey, and it was a really eye-opening educational experience. Ride-alongs are part of the Citizens Academy program. A few of us went and sat into one of the classes last year with the canine dogs. It's a really cool program. It gives you a different perspective of what is happening here in Livonia, how our public safety officers work, and the challenges that they face, and how we can engage as a community. So I encourage anyone who's interested to apply and check it out. I will also jump in on the Learn has their MLK Legacy Breakfast at Madonna University on Monday. That was mentioned during public comments. Tickets are for sale online. It's a great event. I bring my kids. It's a really nice event that we have in the city on MLK Day. So if you haven't been, check it out. They also have a children's art contest, and the deadline for that is Friday, March 17th. So you can submit your art online, for kids only though, and there are prizes. And then finally, I have my coffee hour. The first in-person coffee hour of 2025 is Saturday at the Civic Center Library at 11 o'clock. The topic for this one will be running for city council. We have 4 open seats this year, a lot of interested individuals who've already picked up packets. I'll just be going over, the nuts and bolts of running for office. How do you file? How do you open an account? Campaign finance, some just general rules that you should know when running for office. So come, ask questions. Kids are always welcome. I get Looney Baker donuts. Also, in preparing for the months ahead, next month on February 15th, Police Chief Gralski will be joining me to talk about public safety. In March on the 22nd, Library Director Kristen Edson will join me to talk about the future of our libraries. On April 26th, the mayor will be joining me to talk about the future of Livonia. So I'm very excited about our coffee hours. Again, always open to the public. I will try to stream them. It's not as easy as people would like it to be, but I do my best. Also on Saturday, the Livonia PTSA hosts the annual chili cook-off from 11 to 2 p.m. at Franklin High School, and the tickets are $5. So that's your city update.
All right, thank you. Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. Yes, next Wednesday, the 22nd at 7 p.m., the Capital Outlay and Infrastructure Committee, chaired by myself, will be having a meeting, and that meeting is to discuss the subject matter of planning, design, and construction of the new Civic Center campus. So in layman's terms, we're having another meeting, and this council with administration has had dozens and dozens of public meetings, but I encourage people that are interested in knowing more about 5 Mile and Farmington and the proposed new city hall and new police department and just general city services and what the future of this corner is going to look like. Those meetings are always open to the public. Again, that's next Wednesday. We will have another meeting in March, one in February, one in March, and one in April as well. So a lot of action. I just encourage the public, if you want to know more about what's happening in this campus, to please attend, ask questions. Tons and tons of information is available on our city website. I never like when residents don't know about what's happening, and this council has made it an integral part of us to make sure we discuss these with the community and let the community know that they are always allowed to read information. It's all publicly available, so we encourage you to look into that, and please reach out to me or any of the councilmen and women here to ask questions about what this future is going to look like. Also, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our new councilwoman, Linda Scheel. Welcome. It's a pleasure to serve with you. You've done a lot in our community. And, kudos to former Councilman Jim Jolly, which is now Judge Jolly, and you will fill his seat well. With that being said, I try to appreciate my colleagues, my coworkers, like we all do. And I have a neighboring community member in my hearts, Trustee Scott Frush. He's a councilman. They call him trustees in Northville Township. Unfortunately, he passed away unexpectedly a few days ago. He leaves behind a beautiful wife and two beautiful children, young, 53 years old, and he passed away just out of nowhere. So I wanted to, Mr. President, if you're okay with it, a moment of silence for him. Northville Township is neighbors of ours. We work with them a lot, and I just want to say God bless his soul and his family. Thanks, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was truly devastating. For many of you that know, I work for Northville Township, and when we heard the news, 53 years old, just kind of gives you a different outlook on life, and live it to the fullest, because you never know what's the next day's promise. So hearts to Northville Township and the trustees as they go through that. Counselor, are you guys good? You got anything else? All right, so January 26th, all right, this is a big one. The Detroit Red Wings will face off against your All-Stars. And at 11 a.m., we did the game because, fingers crossed, the Lions will be in the NFC Championship game that night. So $10, you can come out and watch us just get destroyed, both me and Councilman Donovic. So listen, you want to see the Red Wings take us out? There's your chance, all right? So $10 seems like a very affordable rate to see that happen. But we're actually going to have two squads, because I can't say no to anybody, and we're going to integrate close to 35 players, because the way the Wings do it, it's two halves. There's not three periods. One funny thing to note is we've done this game I think this is our fifth year, I think. Fourth or fifth, either one. But I've done this when I worked for the city of Novi. And Darren McCarty, believe it or not, messaged me and said that there's a gentleman on our team by the name of Ryan Law, and he has probably the biggest mouth in this entire city, which is fine. He's ours. Darren McCarty, I asked, I said, D-Mac, are you going to come out and skate? And he goes, yes, I'm going to fix Ryan Law's face. So that is on record, that D-Mac will be with, and his best friend is Jay Adams, who used to be a WWE wrestler that's about 7 feet tall. He's going to take out Donovic. I'm going to be on the bench just smiling, but... again, all the proceeds, they go to Breaking Barriers, formerly Livonia Kids and Families. It's a great event. I laugh at it. We call it it's like the Hallmark hockey game, because we go out there. You're going to have nonprofits that are going to have tables set up. It's $10. Everybody kind of jumps in. Kind of a weird one, because, again, I don't say no to anybody. Miss Wayne County will be singing the national anthem with our Livonia chorus. And so they kind of paired up. Let's do this. We're going to have SPN Survivors going to have a table there. Pucks for Autism is another group. So if there's any other nonprofits that are out there that would like to have a table, it's called BYOT, Bring Your Own Table. And I know Joe Gilligan's going to be there selling some chocolates. So it's going to be a great time, and what a great day, hopefully, for Metro Detroit. So get your tickets. Right now, we've heard we're just over about 550, and we lock up about 700. So I'm telling you right now, this isn't a marketing ploy or used car salesman tactic. If you want tickets, get them, because once they sell out, we hit capacity, and then Chief Jennison, who will be there, I don't want to make them sweat too much with many people in the room. So get your tickets, appreciate it, and hopefully we'll all see you there. With that, what are we moving on to next? Okay, moving on, we've got reports from the mayor and other city officials. Right now, we have 4 items. One is a communication dated from Finance from December 11th, forwarding quarterly investment report for the city of Livonia from the quarter ending August 31st, 2024. These are all most likely receiving files. B is communication from the Department of Finance dated from December 11th, 2024, forwarding various statements of the city of Livonia for the months ending on August 31st, 2024. C, communication from the Department of Parks and Recreation dated December 13th, 2024, in reference to fee changes approved by the Parks and Recreation Commission for the last 2 quarters. And D is communication from the Office of the Council dated on January 8th, 2025, presenting revisions to the chairpersons and members of various council committees of the year 2025. While I might ramble these on, I always try to educate people that these while I do say these are report and files, they are available in the packets online. So if you click the agenda and you'd like to read a bunch of papers and see exactly the specifics of these, you can. So I just didn't want to discount that. All right. With that being said, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. Items 1 through 10 on the consent agenda will be voted on as one item. These items were previously discussed at the study meeting that took place on January 6th and determined to be non-controversial. Council, do I have support, motion?
Mr. President, so moved.
Support. I'm going to, Morgan had that one. He's on a roll. Councilman Donovic was the maker. Council, do we have any comments? Any comments from the audience on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Councilmember Budzinski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shield. Aye. Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Vice President Tashnik.
Aye.
President McCullough.
Aye, and the consent agenda passes 7-0. We are now going to move on to unfinished business, item 11. Item 11 is to consider adoption of a resolution approving a brownfield plan and tax increment financing for the 7 and Victor project. This comes to us from the Robertson Brothers Homes for a planned general development consisting of 100 residential townhomes on the north side of 7 Mile Road. Public hearing was held on Monday, December 9th, 2024. Council,
Mr. President, I'd like
Yes.
to offer an approving.
do we have support?
Support.
Support from Vice President. The floor is yours.
Mr. President, I know that the petitioner's here, and is it okay if we ask a few questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tons of them. No, I'm just kidding. Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Darian Newbecker, President, Robertson Homes, 6905 Telegraph Road, Suite 200, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, 48301.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir, for being here this evening. Not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot, do you mind giving us kind of an update? I mean, I know we're talking about specifically the brownfield financing portion this evening, but for some of the residents that may not be aware of everything's happening, and we do have a new councilwoman here who's very intimately knows about what's been happening, but it'd be nice if you can kind of give us a brief introduction to the plan and what kind of the whole layout and those sorts of things.
So just to bring you up to speed on where we're at in the process, the site has historically always been under consent judgment. It's a number of uses have been tried over the last 13 years. We were in front of this body, I believe, I think late in 2023, a number of times. The consent judgment was modified to incorporate this as a, in terms of this being a townhouse apartment development as an appropriate use for the site. The consent judgment was modified. We spent basically the last 12 months trying to get our arms wrapped around some of the geotechnical and environmental challenges of the site. I think we've had a number of meetings with staff, as well as with the Brownfield Committee, and as well as with this body. So obviously, the subject matter tonight is the Brownfield. In terms of the approval process from where it's at today with the current consent judgment, and I'm sure Mark will correct me if I'm wrong, but the next step, I believe, past tonight, assuming that we get a favorable response tonight, would be to submit a site plan, which we have are in the process of preparing as we speak. That would go back in front of, I believe, planning and council, and then back to council for final site plan. So I think 3 more steps in the process. The idea would be to, my goal, and it's probably going to be tight, but my goal is to get mass graded this year. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get underground utilities in, which sounds crazy standing in front of you in January, but to go get through the rest of the approvals, to go to the state of Michigan for water and sewer permits is, it's not smitten a week later you get your permit. So that's kind of the idea. The idea would be get as much done as we can this year, and then next year we would pave and then start vertical construction. So.
Sir, Mr. President, if I may, looking at the site plan, and again, not going to get too deep in the weeds because it's not appropriate. And like you mentioned, if this was to pass this evening, you would go through a site plan process. You'd go back to the Planning Commission, then to council, and kind of go through all those renderings in more specific detail. But can you kind of give us a brief overview? We're looking at some units. We're looking at a large green space to the north of it. I know just north of that is residents. You know, I guess off the top of my head, how deep is that? How wide is that piece of property to the north? How far are you from the residential homes?
So on the north, it depends how you want to measure it, but on the north end, in terms of the open space in the neighborhood, that is to the immediate north of our site, the space between the closest point between our building and the rear of a building in the neighborhood to the north is approximately 500 feet.
Okay, so you're about 500 feet away from your building to the buildings to the north.
Yeah, one thing that we wanted to do, because this has been an evolving process with this site, is we originally we originally put under contract the site we're developing on the actual hard corner of 7 Mile and Victor, but it left open what was going to happen to the north. And so one of our goals in the last year was to be able to acquire that parcel. I think it's going to allow us to do some creative landscaping, as well as to actually, our goal is to put some berms on there, which would increase the screening between the residential neighborhood to the north as well as us, as well as activate it for some active and passive recreational space for our residents. So,
And I know for the residents watching, we are currently looking at rendering a drawing on our screen. I'm not sure if the residents can see that on their screens. I know one resident's shaking his head no right now. Oh, there it is. So you're telling us this evening that you do not intend to develop that green space between your units and the homes to the north. So that effectively would stay green space. You're talking about adding some berms, some trees, and activating that space as kind of like a green space, a walkable area.
absolutely. I mean, that site will not be developed when we hopefully, if we're able to gain our approvals and we move forward with the development. When we record a master deed, that open space will be preserved as such, open space in perpetuity.
And I'm
I mean,
asking
we
this-
are going to do some landscaping and some hardscaping elements like seating areas, benches. I mean, the idea was to wrap it with a sidewalk. What we showed here is just because I haven't had time to plan it out, but we intended doing a whole lot. I'm going to say a whole lot. We intended doing more and probably wrapping a sidewalk around there, as well as doing probably some art installation. And kind of let it evolve, but there will not be any structures. In fact, I really don't think you could develop it if you wanted to, but for a small section, because there are certain restrictions with the conservation easement, if I recall.
And the residents will remember this site because back in 2019, there was a proposal to develop this site, and it was very, very dense. This, in my opinion, is not nearly what that was. I know that was a different developer, that was not you, but I'd say it's unique because most developers look at this land and they're like, we're going to develop it, and I can understand the residents not necessarily wanting units in their backyard, even though you'd have the right to develop it, from my opinion. I do want to say that I appreciate it as one council member that you were kind of thinking about the residents to the north, those homes there, and you're adding a huge. I mean, that's 500 feet you mentioned, and it's going to be trees and walkable space and whatnot. So I like that. I guess my last question. Well, I probably will have more, but can you give us an idea of how high those homes are in the back, those residential homes in connection perpetuity to yours? I mean, yours is taller, lower?
So our product is going to be a number of development approaches that have been tried on this site, from hospitals to office to commercial to, I think at one point they tried to overdo the residential with 4-story apartment buildings and 200-some units, which I don't think was received very favorably. This product type here is 3-story. So it's 3-story products, so it's not 2-story single family. So it's what we call a transitional use product, missing middle housing. It's got a number of terms to it. What I think is unique about this site is in terms of the neighborhood to the north, topographically, the site drops north to south. So if you were to look at the finished floor elevation of a house to the north there, and you would look at to the neighborhood to the north and the finished floor elevation to there's 16 feet of fall. So the tops of the roofs of the neighborhood to the north are actually going to be taller than the tops of the roofs to our 3-story product. In essence, our neighbors to the north are going to be looking down at us, which usually sometimes you see the other way around, and it's one of the concerns that neighborhoods would have. So.
But it would be reasonable for me to assume that they're going to have a very difficult time even seeing your units. Even though you're lower than them, it's going to be a hard time for them to even see you because there is such a huge green space in between the two spaces.
It's 500 feet in terms of a buffer. The good news is this site allowed us to develop in a pattern that provides for a tremendous amount of buffering with 500 feet, with landscaping, some berming, as well as topographically north to south. So, I mean, could you see the development? Yes. Are you going to feel the impact of the development? Yes. But in terms of developing a hard corner on an arterial road, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better screening development plan than what you see here today. And I mean, I'm biased, but it's 500 feet. So.
Yeah, I think that's all my questions for now. Don't go anywhere. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Toy.
Thank you, if I may, to the petitioner. Sir, I happened to be on the council when that one was proposed. It was kind of an interesting time. And I think the neighbors, rightfully so, were concerned about traffic in that area. It's a busy area. Within there, a lot of, I don't want to assume there's a lot of accidents, but from what I hear, there's a lot of concern about that. And then, you know, the expressway kind of thing, being right there. It's a great site in many ways. And I know a lot of people have tried to develop, as you mentioned. It's very, no offense, expensive site property, if you will. And so I kudos to you for coming back with an ulterior plan. It is a much better plan, at least in my opinion, from what I recall. Had you had any opportunity to talk to any of the residents? I know, if I'm correct, that's St. Martin Street that runs behind there, and there's some very lovely homes with some very spacious lots back there, and I know they're very conscientious about what's going in and, you know, that kind of thing. So I just don't know if you went door to door or found a need to do that at all. These guys are professional door to door, so they can guide you. I'm teasing, but we are used to going door to door. So have you done any of that? I mean, talk to the neighbors, because we've gotten at least one letter on it that they were a little surprised, but I think they thought there was a rezoning tonight was, you know, and it's not quite yet. No, this is just about a brownfield. And we'll get to that in 1 minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
We did not, in full disclosure. I did meet with one neighbor, and it was by chance.
Okay.
And only because we were doing geotechnical work on the site, and I think they were. Oh, yeah, okay. I was wondering if it was you. So, anyways, I did meet with one of the neighbors, the
Sure.
gentleman right here to my left, and I think he had a lot of the questions about the height.
Sure.
Obviously, I won't speak for him. I'm sure he'll speak tonight. I do think, if I recall the conversation, when I think the 3-story versus 4-story somewhat set in a better direction. And I don't know, I think I did talk about not developing to the north, which I think was.
You are talking 3 stories.
Right.
Yeah, 3
Yes,
stories.
we'll have,
Yeah.
we'll give you an opportunity to speak. No, you're good.
Yeah, but what we will commit to doing, though, is between now and when we come back to planning and council, I'm happy to have because we typically would at Robertson have a neighborhood. This was a little unique because of consent judgment, so we will certainly
Right,
have a neighborhood
right.
meeting, so. But no, the quick answer is I did not go into door to door.
Okay. Yeah, just a couple more. Brownfield, what will that do for you? So the audience at home kind of hears. what
I mean,
that
in
does
short,
for-
if I just to cut right to the chase, the site and again, this is our opinion, and it's your job to weigh in whether you think I'm being fair, but I don't think the site's developable without a brownfield because of the size of the site, the fact that there's 12 to 15 feet of fill, and the fact that the fill itself is peat, which is essentially a swamp material. So
Right.
I can't put buildings on there without spending an astronomical amount of money. So.
Yeah.
So the brownfield reimburses us dollar for dollar. Now, what I will say is and this is a developer whine, but it is also reality from, I don't think anybody would argue this. It's going to take 10 years for us to get reimbursed for costs that we spend in 1 year. So we're really not getting reimbursed dollar for dollar, but the deal, we're comfortable moving forward on that basis. So we need it to make the numbers work. And I know that's a developer whining, but that, in our opinion, is reality.
No, and your point's well taken. That's why we developed it. I sat on the Committee on Commerce up in the Senate when we put a lot of these through to entice people to come to Michigan because we were losing population and businesses at that time. So it's well received and it's been used very well. And in your case, it's very appropriate, in my opinion, to have it there. If I may, thank you for answering my questions. If I could go to our city planner. Mr. Tormey, do any of the residents, I know this is a consent, but did they get notification or any signage there? Because I think a couple of them that called me from knowing them before, they were a little shocked that they didn't get notification. And I said, well, it's a different kind of thing right now. But in the future, when he starts developing the site plan, would there be any kind of thing on that, or?
So there's a public, there was a public hearing held on
right.
this, and the clerk's office would have handled the notification. I can't tell you what that is. It could have been just newspaper. No signs are required under the statute to be posted on the property, and I'm not sure if mailers go out to the property owners within a certain distance, but it was a public hearing and it was advertised, I believe, in at least the newspaper and to the various taxing authorities that have an interest in the brownfield process. Moving forward, this follows a typical site plan procedure, so there is not a requirement for public notification. We would encourage any residents, any other interested parties to contact the planning department on a regular basis, submit to our agendas, we post those online, and track this as to when this will be reviewed by the planning commission. We anticipate it will be in the next couple of months.
Certainly, and sir, that's why I kind of always ask a petitioner, have you talked to people around you, even though you're not touching them, or they don't have some of these other things, because it makes your stuff go a lot easier, and it makes it easier on all of us, quite frankly, as well, so, not that you have to, it's just a suggestion, but over my years of service, I've seen where it goes a lot smoother a lot of times, yeah. And especially on this site, because it was so kind of controversial, I think, is the word you might want to use in the past. And you're doing a terrific job, don't get me wrong. I'm just suggesting to you it might be helpful.
No, and we certainly will, and it's something
Sure.
we'll commit to, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you. Council, anything else? Anything from the audience? Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks,
Floor is
Mr.
yours.
President. Sir, what is the taxes right now on this site?
I'm going to be wrong, but not very wrong. It's $20,000-$30,000, I believe, a year.
Okay.
And then ultimately build up, because, our argument always as a developer on this site is it needs a lift because it would have developed. I mean, it's not tucked in anywhere. It's a hard intersection, and there's a reason it hasn't developed.
Yeah.
Built out, 400,000, 425,000, somewhere in that range.
So it's your opinion that the site, and for the residents wondering, I know you have an environmental expert with you. ASTI conducted a very thorough environmental analysis on the site. So, there's a ton of information on here as to why this site would be considered eligible. So from my perspective, I'll be supportive of this. I think you guys have been very thoughtful to the residents of the north. I mean, there's, again, 500 feet of distance. You're maintaining that as green space. Most developers, not to say anything bad about it, but most developers, understandably so, would try to develop this site for maximum benefits and profits, and as we should all. But I think you were very considerate in thinking about how to work this plan into the area, and you got a roughly 500 feet of distance from the homes to the north to your units, and you're keeping that as green space. And then I also think that we're kind of leveling the playing field here in the sense of this is a very dirty site. There's all sorts of contaminants buried here over the years from 275 and all the other supportive information that you have in this very, very, very long file that I'm not going to bore everybody with. But I think this qualifies, and I'll be supportive of it. It'll be nice to see some residential units here as opposed to some sort of commercial application, which I would argue would be more intense. And then also you mentioned, which is something important to me, even though we hear 3 stories, this site, as you said, falls, so this site is lower by 16 feet compared to the homes to the north. So in terms of a visual perspective, and when you equate the distance between the spaces, I think this is going to be a slam dunk, and I'm looking forward to the site. That is a dirty site right now, all those soils being removed and this being developed into a really nice residential community to continue to attract homeowners here. So thank you, sir. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Council, anything else? All right, I think we're good. I'm going to go to the audience right now. I appreciate you answering those questions.
Go blue.
There you go. Audience, if you would like to speak on this item, make your way to the podium. Name and address for the record.
Yeah, I'm John Fitch, 37773 Northland Street. I'm one of the residents to the north. We hadn't received any notice that this was going on. Has this project been approved to even go in? Or are we still in that? Because I was under the impression that's already been.
So Mr. Tremaine, can you just kind of give an overview? Because I know that we've had brownfield, we've had consent, so this has been a very interesting, Mr. Termina lives and breathes this.
So the history of this property goes back to the mid-90s. There was litigation between a previous landowner, which was Oakwood Hospital or Oakwood Health Systems, and the owners of the property at that time. following the unsuccessful rezoning. That led to a consent judgment. That consent judgment allowed for the development of that hospital on the property or ambulatory care facility. That never transpired, and over the course of the next almost 20 years, there's been various iterations of the agreement between the city and potential, the owners and potential developers of this property.
There was a court action, and the city council essentially denied them from developing. They took the city to court. The city lost. Someone is allowed to develop this site. Let me just, I'm trying to fill in. Someone's allowed to develop the site, and council, maybe a year ago, determined that rather than having the site developed commercial, the city council approved to have this site, through a consent judgment, amended to develop residential. Does that make, am I saying that correctly, Mr. Termina?
That is basically correct.
Yeah, so basically correct, where the city council said, we'd rather see residential there as opposed to some sort of commercial application. As one council member, not speaking for my colleagues, I would rather see residential, and I like this plan because these petitioners, not the ones from 2019, the ones from 2019, those are different developers. This developer is a new one, and they are proposing to develop these 100 units like this and leave that land to the north vacant. And that would be in an easement, and it will always stay vacant, and it will be a green space. That is why I'm supporting this developer, because they are taking that into consideration, leaving that land to the north green. It is my opinion that if the city council denies this plan, they're not going to develop it, and it'll get sold to somebody else. And the next developer may not be as courteous and want to work with the city and the residents. So that is why I'm supportive of these guys. I hope that helps, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else for audience communication on this item? If you'd like to speak?
No, it's good.
Okay. With that being said, Madam Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Councilmember Budzinski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shield.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Choi.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Vice President Tashnik.
Aye.
President McCullough.
Aye. And the motion, or the item carries 7-0. We're going to move on to item number 12, is a request for council approval on a proposed lot split. This comes to us from the Department of Assessment in reference for the property located south of 8 Mile and east of Merriman Road in the northeast quarter section 2, 19902 Merriman Court. Petition 2024-11-LS-15, and to waive the required 50 feet wide right-of-way for vehicular, listen, I'm going to gut that. Everybody knows access for proposed parcels A and B. Listen, I'm still having my filling issue. Council, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to offer an approving.
Do we have support?
Support.
Support. Do you want to speak on the item?
Not really.
All right. We do have the petitioners here. I want to thank you guys for, pretty much the whole team for getting us the information we needed. Do you have any other questions, concerns for us, or you just want to see this vote?
Watch you vote.
Okay. Vice President, and then I'll go to Councilwoman Budzinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had one quick question. I'm not sure actually if it's for Mr. Zelinsik, Mr. Termina, or the petitioner, so I'm just going to throw it out there and ask
See where it sticks.
See where it goes. So I know we were talking about making the easement or allowing for the 30-foot. That adjacent parcel to the east, that still gives me some pause. So I know that you said you weren't interested in buying it right now or didn't have it right now, but if we were to approve this and that did eventually get developed, would we have to go back and retroactively adjust for that, or no? I just don't want to paint ourselves into a corner on
So
this.
this does not preclude them coming back in the future for a request to gain access to that undeveloped parcel, in which case we would recommend, we are recommending that a 50-foot wide right-of-way be provided to that parcel. So that should be part of the planning as they undergo this project, that if they are successful in acquiring that property, it doesn't again, preclude them from extending, widening that right-of-way and extending it further to the east. Yep.
Okay, okay, because that's what's giving me.
We've had that conversation, so I think they're fully aware
Okay.
of what they need to plan for in the future, should they purchase that property.
Okay, and so I guess through the chair to the petitioner, agreed on that? Okay, that's all. I just wanted to double check, make sure before we took that vote. Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Budzinski.
Yeah, so I just needed a little bit, because we have two scenarios in the agenda, and the 50-foot where it breaks out a potential new development, and the one that's shown up here where it has the undeveloped land, basically inaccessible. And I guess I have reservations about approving it if if the intention is to create additional housing there and approve it without having it accessible in that way. I mean, I guess my question is to Mark, do you feel comfortable with the 30 feet versus a 50 feet? Personally, I feel more comfortable with the 50 feet. In your professional opinion, what are your thoughts?
My professional opinion, and after going through this in detail with the engineering division, is that the 30-foot right-of-way is sufficient to provide it, to serve parcels A and B, but only parcels A and B.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think that's part of my motion then, is what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
Planning,
That's
right?
reflected in the
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to be
Yep.
clear.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else from council? Anything from the audience on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a vote. Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Councilmember Budzinski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shield.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Vice President Tashnik.
Aye.
President McCullough.
Aye. And the item carries 7-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. All right, well, look at that. We're going to move on to new business. Item number 13 is an acceptance of grant of easement, comes to us from the Department of Law, secured without monetary consideration from UAG Realty LLC for a 6-foot wide public utility easement in connection with the sanitary sewer constructed at 32400 Plymouth Road in section 27. Mr. Fisher, is this you? Or do you just want to?
It can be.
It's just,
So this is, we did the agreement. It came from engineering
We
originally.
need a motion, Mr. President?
yeah, with the new business, we can have a motion for sake of discussion. When we have new business, I always like the items to be explained a little bit, but that's okay. A motion? All right. Support.
Go ahead.
The floor is yours, Mr. Carter.
Sure. So we're the ones who sent this agreement your way, but it originally came from engineering. This is just so that we could build a sanitary sewer at, I think, Bill Brown Ford.
Yes, and then the existing sewer they're going to utilize it possibly for their development.
Sure. So it's just to potentially add sewer there and get an easement in our name so that we can do that.
Well, it looks like, Mr. Fisher, you owe him a beer for that. That being said, we do have motions on the table. Do we have any communication from council? Do we have anything from the audience? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Councilmember Budzinski.
Aye.
Councilmember Shield.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Toy.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Vice President Tashnik.
Aye.
President McCullough.
Aye. And the item carries 7-0. And with that, that concludes a regular meeting. I'm going to go back to the audience for any items that are not on the agenda if you'd like to speak upon. Seeing none, I'm going to go back to,
Motion.
okay, so you only get one per meeting, but you know what? We have the study coming up in a little bit, and you can speak on that.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All right, I think I can safely show 7. See you at 8.